this, you get to squeeze Donald Trump's.
You have to squeeze a pico? No.
Noli, look. You squeeze it.
And the poop comes out.
Part of our tour. Now we have snacks and drinks available at the takeout window. We also have deer feed available for purchase. That's if you wanted to feed the deer by hand. We get things open so we can start on our tour. If you guys are interested in feeding the animals that you're going to train while it's moving, also for your own safety, it can be real tempting to start feeding those animals before we come to a complete stop.
All aboard. And I said it right before. I think that car might want to go on the tour.
This is our stop. We got about 5 minutes to meet the animals. We're
Sit away.
Yeah, if you want to feed.
You're gonna get pegged. Don't hide it.
You want to feed it?
Hold on tight, Cece. You gotta open up the.
Oh my god!
Open it up. It's a hold on tight.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, Daniel, watch out.
You don't really want to smoke, bro? You really some smoke, bro?
I'm tight.
No.
Flat hand.
Don't get it. No, I'm not.
But not for the
man.
It's like
A little baby. You want to help me?
Those emus are aggressive.
okay, no, here.
What's coming?
It's like ostrich. They're pretty aggressive.
Over there.
Still food. I'm so scared.
You're not flat.
Flat hand. Oh, it's okay, no. Here, Mama help you.
Uh-oh. Hey, emu, come.
You have some leaf over
Okay, that's enough.
Flat hand.
there. No snacks! More snacks!
Here, boo boo. Want to help yourself? Just okay to the other side. Mommy, then you go the other side. The other side.
Hold it open like
It's fine.
No, I can't feed myself. Hey, Scoot. Over there. Emu.
Over there. I don't like them.
Bad emu.
Right here, turn around. Here, look, focus. Focus. Just look forward. Don't look back.
No. I already tried to feed her. Okay. No emu.
Just look forward. You're fine.
I bit my finger.
Turkey.
So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the menu now while we still have a couple minutes.
This is a hot dog deal.
Remember, this is our only feeding stop, so make sure that you're getting rid of all that feed over the next 2 minutes or so. Now, all these feed that are coming up are here for you. Different kinds are coming up today. Hello, they come in a variety of colors. That's our black buck antelope, which comes from India.
This number emu is on this side.
Daniel, get it. I can't.
You're going to also see those emus a couple more times. Those are the second fastest, second largest land bird right now. They come from Australia. And they are, so throughout the rest of the park, you get
Oh, velociraptors are
Tennessee
dinosaurs.
fainting goats.
That I know.
Closed area right over here.
Did they seriously get it back to you? No, I don't think they got it. I think they gave me it. This time,
No,
buddy.
no, so free.
Do you want to give it to them?
No, that's so free.
This one.
Hey,
there's a heart,
attacking.
Hey, turkey.
Yeah, but I don't even get turkey. You want to try the emu? Oh, there's some on my side. Not the back. No, Lee. There's some on my side. Where's the emu?
Oh my gosh. Look how far that one is.
Over the other side.
No, he's just don't drop. No, but they're gonna pick it out of the ground.
Okay, are you done? Do you want to
No, it's all gone.
Oh, look, antlers. Doesn't get poked by the antlers.
I'm scared he's gonna pick me.
Might get poked by the antlers.
They feel that. You should be more scared right
Is
now.
it able to get out?
Yeah, that's what you should be scared about. You want to feed this? Yeah, but I don't like feeding without any. I really like feeding.
Okay, you ready? Here we go.
Reindeer.
That's the word.
Hey, that was cool. Do this one. This
It's not food. It's white.
Hey, Rice, I dare you to kiss one of these velociraptors on the left.
Please don't hurt yourself.
Here, you could have these.
What's
No.
what you-
No.
No, that's why I kick it to the side.
Emu. Oh boy, emu disaster. Hi, dear. Hi. Can we pet the deer? Oh, I'll give this to the emu and it'll just throw on the ground. What? Get out anymore.
It's okay, that was cool.
Is this it? Yep. But I didn't eat twice. I didn't eat twice. I want more food. Live a good life while you can. That was so cool. He wants more food. He wants more food. He doesn't want to go.
More snacks, please.
Let's go to the other train.
So how about if you pour in all your food and let this guy? What are those, Mama? What are those? Yeah. Break them up. The emus and the antlers. Oh, but
Tell the camera what the craziest part was.
the craziest part was when the emu was on this side, they were trying to grab the food from my hand. So there was another emu on that side, and but at the end, the emus were on that side. So we just tried that. Those are peacocks. Those are turkeys. I saw a peacock. Let's watch them get destroyed. What? Is that an albino? This moves at like 4 miles per hour, maybe. We're back in the tunnel. We're back. The water. You want to try again? It's the dinosaur emu. What? Now we're going inside the cave.
Doors 100 cave entrance. Last door, you can do that inside of the yellow. If you guys want to stop right behind Steve.
So watch your step. We're gonna stop right here to go over some rules. Have you been in a cave before? Yeah? Well, that's good. So if anything happens to me, you can take over and be the tour guide, right? Watch your step on your way down. We're gonna fill in this area and go over some rules. Hello, tour.
Ahoy, hoy! $10, so you got Stephen and not me.
and they owned it for about a decade. Then they sold it, and it ended up in the hands of Mr. A.B. Rogers, a businessman here in town, who turned it into the first open cave attraction here in Texas. You could go down for 10 cents. You check out one room. Eventually, he got tired of only making that much money and only getting people coming once, because once you see a cave and it takes 5 minutes to go through a whole room, that's the only time you're coming back to that cave. He figured that there's got to be more to it, so he used dynamite and expanded upon the cave. He blew out this opening and opened up what is the majority of what we're going to walk through. So he opened it up with dynamite and found a much more expanded cave than he thought he had under the property. We're going to go check that out right now. These steep steps I was talking about, those are results of the dynamite. So keep that in mind as we're going down the steep steps and we actually get into the cave, so I can start talking a little bit more about what's actually going on underground in this cave. So, you guys... It's going to be humid. Watch your step up here at the top and a little bit.
Watch out for your head.
There you go. Then watch your head as you go through here. These are the steep steps I was talking about. Go nice and slow. Take them one at a time, please.
Did they get tired of making steps?
Well, they actually weren't here at the beginning. Originally, we had to come down by a rope ladder.
That would be much better.
Better? Tiring too. Plus, what if you fall? Watch your head as you come through here.
These are
Touch all the walls you guys can. Yeah. Watch your step. You're gonna stop right here. Watch your head as you make your way through. Be prepared. Step over that step.
Hey.
Hold on, hold on.
railing.
Oh,
watch out.
Watch your step on your way down. If you guys hear my voice, you are past the steepest, toughest, hardest part of the tour, but there are some slippery steps with some puddles right ahead of you. So go slow, hold on to the rail. Oh. Create the formations that you're used to seeing in caves, like stalagmites, stalactites, cave columns, things like that. But what we have is what we have. It was formed not by moving water over a large period of time. It was formed by an earthquake somewhere between 15 and 35 million years ago, right where everybody's standing. In fact, if you guys look up at the ceiling, you're going to see a big divide, a big crack. As your first look at our first visual evidence of the Balcones fault line, which runs from the top of Texas down through central Texas. Here in central Texas, it splits up two very distinct types of land, which we're going to see up in that tower. Everything to our west is going to be the hill country, lots of really pretty scenic hills. Everything to the east is going to be towards the Gulf Coast. That's the Gulf Coast of Plains, completely flat, not a lot to look at. I don't know if anybody's visiting from Houston or if anybody's made the trip between central Texas and Houston by car. Very boring drive, nothing to look at. Now, we're going to see that when we're up close, and this fault line we're going to see throughout every room that we are in. The evidence of the fault line without that earthquake, without the fault line being right where it is, this would all be filled in completely solid ground. There would be no opening, there would be no fissure for us to be walking through. All of these spaces would be completely filled. So, if you take a look at this wall, you're going to notice it starts off convex, comes outward, then inward, outward, and inward. The eastern wall is the inverse. It starts off inward, then outward, then inward, then outward. And that's because, before that earthquake happened, these two walls were together. Jigsaw puzzle pieces. A good example of that would be this cave oven mitt jutting out from the western side, and then you look over to the eastern side and you'll see the cave oven, the hole that it fit into millions and millions of years ago before this earthquake happened. Now, you all, I promise they're not. They've been there for millions of years and they're putting tons, literally tons of pressure on these walls, keeping everything right where it is. So I want everybody to look at these rocks in this wall as we go down to the next room. Keep in mind that these are nodules of chert. So that's forming flint, baby flint, stones that Native Americans would turn into arrowheads, spark fires with. That's what these guys were going to grow up to become, but they didn't get their chance because they were ripped from their spot in the earth. And down in the next room, we're going to see some examples of flint. some that got a little farther along in the developmental process. So the only thing alive down here, you might see the occasional bug, but they come down from the ground level. They come from the elevator shaft that was attached, and they have 2 lights up here, which is actually, you can see some of the green over here as a result of that. When they used to have a light up there. I think they moved it. It's probably that one now. They switched it out. Help on the shelf, scavenger hunt going for the Christmas break. So I'm going to walk us down.
Those are really big steps. Be careful.
Watch your step. We're going to fill in this room. Take a seat. Watch your head. Same evidence of that fault line. In fact, that's what the unevenness would have looked like in that last room for the floor had we not put down some cement so everybody could walk evenly. So right here, I told you I was going to show you some flint. All these are pieces of flint. All these black rocks in the wall up here. There's some on that rock down there as well. I believe that fell yesterday on tour. Just kidding. I have to say, just kidding. The walls
it's white.
so far, most of the walls in the cave are made up of either Georgetown limestone or butyl limestone. Water takes a long time to get through. A lot of that sand and mud exposed to the hot Texan sun. If you guys have ever seen a lake dry up in here on a very large scale, we got to preserve to find millions of years later. Right where my light is fixated on, there's a big indent in the ceiling, and that is where there was a pocket of air, a bubble trapped under some of that sand and mud. And when it burst, when it popped, you can see it sent rip quick, pulled these plates apart, and created this fissure, created this opening. This space that we're standing in right now was created, and we get to see it up close and personal, which is very lucky. These circumstances that had to happen for us to be able to see this is pretty extraordinary on its own. So, the owner of this cave didn't actually tell people about all this stuff. He didn't tell people anything about the fault line or the geological interesting points down here. He was actually tricking people to come down here into looking for gold, which, by the way, don't check under your seats. I'm not Oprah. There's no gold, no silver, no diamonds, no gold. He told people you could come down here and find gold, and they would always come down here and have the same experience. They see something shiny or sparkly in the wall, but nothing tangible, nothing they could put in their bag. They'd leave, tell their friends, families, neighbors, oh, you should go and take the tour. Maybe you'll leave richer than you came down, because there's definitely something down there. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. This went on for months and months because every night, late at night, when the last of the tours were done, Mr. Rogers would sneak down here with a bucket full of his wife's old jewelry. He'd crush that jewelry into a fine powder and sprinkle it over these walls. So when he came down here the next day with a candle, thought he found a vein of gold, all you're looking at was Mrs. Rogers' old Sunday earrings. Now, sounds kind of dopey to fall for. It's a different experience. And people that explored caves on the turn of the century were faced with a few more challenges. We have their candle, and if you lose your candle, you're stuck in what is called absolute darkness. So really quickly, who for just a little bit, stick next to whoever makes you feel safe. In 3, 2, 1. We like to have a variety. So as you
Watch out, no way. These are slow people. You just say that, Liz.
So watch your step. We can make that space. Watch your head as you make your way up right there.
Whoa, this.
So feel free to look into the well. Like I said, all these black spots above the well, those are the original soot marks from different people standing here with their candles, waiting for their bucket to go down, water to come up. That pulley right there, nearing 100 years old, it's not already over 100 years old. I don't know when it was replaced, but they've been using this over 100 years ago as a source of water, so I wouldn't send it. So in just a second, I'm going to be walking this out and getting this up to the final room. There's a low-hanging rock. Watch your step as you make your way out.
Oh, she went.
Absolutely. Watch your head. Watch your head right here. They call it the rock of many names. When adults hit it, they have many names for it. Watch your head. Wonderful
okay, boo boo?
Watch your head, watch your head.
Watch the bowl.
Yeah. And watch your head right here, sir. Watch your head right here, ma'am.
Oh, this is cool.
The steps right. They don't look up in time and they forget to watch out for this. The tour guides call it the shampoo rock because when the tours don't pay, this last set of stairs up to this final room, I want everybody to make sure that they duck to the left, bear to the left, whatever's easier for you. Just please don't hit your head. If you think that are below us now as well as for a long time.
This is watch out for your heads, guys.
Watch your head, watch your head. Watch your head on your way up. Very good, very good. No concussions. So, we are now in our fossil room. When we're done in here, and I'm done talking to you guys in here, we'll take those steps up and out of here. So, everybody give yourselves a pat on the back. You explored a cave. It's a good way to start the year. That's not something that you do every day, unless you work in a cave. So, we call this our fossil room. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but I do want to touch up on some more stuff down in Oxford. It's a huge, huge underground cave system full of water. And down the first time, I think 5 or 6 years ago, it's pretty old. It's like 2005, Planet Earth is the first one. I remember seeing it where it once was, a very, very long time ago. We find those preserved in stones millions of years later. We call them trace fossils. All these squiggly lines are tunnels that were burrowed by a critter. So does anybody want to guess what left these tunnels? What do you think? These are her steps. She used these to get access to what we asked for. She actually found nothing. So they fired her, they let her go. They didn't have to pay her salary anymore, so they saved that money, set it aside. And then, and this is before my time, so I don't know about the mentality exactly, but I'm guessing that they thought, okay, we can't show people sea clams at the end of the tour. The least we could do, give them a 70-foot elevator ride out of the cave so they don't have to hike back out. Personally, I'm very thankful for the elevator. So the guy, now, when they use dynamite to blow out a big giant hole in the ground to the elevator shaft, his half-brother Ernie very close by, and we'll go see them up close and personal a little bit on our way up to the elevator. But keep in mind that Bert and his half-brother Ernie are in fact introduced sea clams. Before you guys ask, we call Ernie Bert's half-brother, not because we did any kind of back around to the original cave system. We call those finger caves. Now, there's one in this room. On the other side of this railing, if you can get under it or over it, you go through here, and you pop out over there. Kiddos, you gotta ask mom and dad.
Alright, let them go first. Hold on for a few seconds. Alright, and go.
I'm not filming.
Partner, oh.
Lily, stop. Stop. Here, get out of the way there.
Look at mama, look at me.
I wanted to be in the first elevator.
Alright, come out.
That is scary.
Where's
That is scary.
Where's the looking?
Wait, hold on, let me film it.
What do you see back there?
An orange carrot cowboy.
So what?
It's quite squishy.
Oh, squishy? Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can fit, okay?
You should. You can't even exit.
Let me see.
It's just. This is orange carrot.
Alright, boys. Let me get a picture of you guys. Hey,
This is
that's perfect.
orange
Alright,
carrot.
right, hey, look here. Alright, look here, boys.
This is
One,
orange carrot.
1, 2, 3, tree.
Orange
That's 1,
carrot.
2, 3, boo boo. Tree.
Orange carrot.
For some reason, somebody placed it there. Don't know.
I think that might be a natural.
Oh, there's a
formation.
one. Tell the camera, boo boo.
There's an orange Mexican carrot over there.
Shine the light.
No, orange carrot cowboy. No, it's a Mexican. It's a bad Mexican.
Okay, there are people behind us.
I told you that.
Hold on. The entrance was blocked. I mean, the exit was blocked.
Orange carrot cowboy. Where's the Can you go with me again? Can you go with me again?
Didn't get to see the clan. So there's Bert right here.
Where?
I don't know if that's too bright.
Everybody out.
Wait, where's the clan?
It's these guys. Keep in mind, 65 million years ago is when they were wriggling
This
around.
thing?
Yeah, right there.
That looks like a worm.
It does. They were very long. To get going, I want to make sure everybody is okay with going up to the tower, right? It's not like a ledge or anything. It's a big room. So if you don't want to face your fears, you can always just go to the middle. So it's a little easier to see. You get out of the way. Right through here, right here, you're going to see some cave columns, stalagmites, stalactites. The only spot in our cave, and there weren't very many of them besides this, but the only spot in our cave where they're still forming because nobody's figured out how to get their hands on that spot yet. I say yet. But the oil from your fingertips will halt that kind of thing from growing. So as we're going up through a lot of sedimentary rock, keep in mind that from where we started in the elevator getting up to this point to ground level, that was over 100 million years in the making in terms of each level of sedimentary rock. So we're going to go up an extra 100 feet to where the tower's waiting. We'll be up not quite as high as we were down in the well room, but pretty high up, about 100 feet in the air. And you're going to be able to see what I was talking about when we first discussed the fault line in a little bit. You're going to be able to see out towards about a mile or so to the west, which is that way. And then the hills start impeding your view. Meanwhile, you look off towards the east, which is that way. And you should see for pretty much as far as your eyes and the weather allows, visibility is okay today. That is going to be the Gulf Coastal Plains, goes all the way out towards the Gulf Coast, towards Houston. And there's a staircase in the middle of the room. If you guys are feeling particularly adventurous, you want a better view, it's not cold enough for you here, you can go up to the very top where the flagpole is. It's a little more open and exposed, but there is a fence about this high, so nobody should blow away. You get a slightly better view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that first group down. Come.
So one side's hill.
Are you going back down? Yeah. Oh no, there's more stairs. Noe's the first.
Whew. Are you the first to arrive? You see where we started, Boo Boo?
Where's the fault line?
It's emu, not
Oh, tell us we're on top of
It's
the tower.
like the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. Oh, you can say that. Here we go.
We are at the top. We are at the top of the tower, over 100 feet above ground, and this is the view that we have. But it's like the Eiffel Tower. Hill comes this side, and the Gulf.
Yeah.
And the Gulf of Mexico is on that side, is in that direction. Come on. And the Gulf of Mexico is in that direction. You can see how over here it's not as green, and over here it is. Actually, not really. Is this the last elevator?
He tried to give you
January.
Yeah, January 1st to January 1st. You go to your first job interview and they'll say, did you like that job? And you'll say, it had its ups and downs. And they'll either hire you right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop you guys off at ground level, go get our last of our group, and then once I'm down with them, which shouldn't be more than a minute, we will all be walking to the anti-gravity
Go ahead.
together. very far from the end of the cave tour. Just a lot of water. Hello. All right, so you guys wait right here for a second. I have to go over the rules.
I'll see you later.
Yep, it is a mystery spot. Yes, we've been in one. I like it.
Whoa. Ooh, watch your step as you kind of snake in. Feel free to make some space. We'll walk. We can go that way, we can go that way. There's room on the other side as well.
I know this trick. It's the ball trick. I know this
You
one.
want to drop the ball in here?
Yeah, I know this one. I know.
What's your name?
L-O-L-E.
No, the ball, Nolan. And there you go. You want to drop one? So we're going to have another one going in just a second. If you guys need to catch the ball going uphill, feel free to watch again. There will be another one. Nolan's relative set it up for us. Now, keep in mind, that you get in your view, the worse off you're going to be. If you want to take pictures in here, the best way to do it is line your camera up so the black and white stripes are straight up and down on your screen, your display. That is how you get the effect of your subject. Defying physics. I see a lot of people do their best Michael Jackson lean, like he's doing right over here. A lot of people do the Matrix dodges. I'm not really sure what they're dodging, but they seem to have fun with it. And in this room, we have some more space. Fun.
I'm gonna put the ball down here and it's gonna roll upwards. Well, it's actually rolling downwards, but ready? Set, go.
Whoa, slippery. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And what was this crap?
Hi. Well, look how he moves it.
Hello.
Hi. 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 Oh my goodness. Hi. You supposed to copy? Our first stop is Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park. Our next stop is Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park. Now we are at Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park. Our final stop is Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park. Now we're touring our second cavern, Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park in San Marcos. Hello Buccaneers, today we're visiting Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park in San Marcos.
Oh, San Marcos, Texas?
Oh yeah. Hello Buccaneers, today we're visiting Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park in San Marcos, Texas. We had so much fun we had a great time at Wonder World Cave and Adventure Park. My favorite part was that this cave is different from all the others that we visited before because it's a dry cave and it was formed by an earthquake and not by water dripping down. So the formations were different and it's just nice to have something different after all the wet caves that we've been to and to change things up a little bit. My favorite part was feeding the emus. Yeah, the emus were crazy. We're almost attacked. It was the wildest
like a
feeding
video
experience we've ever had.
It's like a video game.
Yeah, that was fun though.
Bye-bye.